good afternoon and welcome to 13 News Now Plus right here with Live Impact News. It is 1 o'clock p.m. on December 10th, 15 days away from Christmas. We are cruising through the holidays, and the early part of this week here in Hampton Roads has primarily been dominated by weather news as we had snow across various parts of our area. That has cleared up a bit, at least in terms of the precipitation. We still have a lot of very cold temperatures out there, though I do believe this day, as of some of our most recent forecasts, is supposed to be the warmest of the week, but even that is only in the low 50s, really. So the skies have cleared, the temperatures remain cold, but we have made it to Wednesday here on this second week of December. Now, we're here for 2 hours, and for those 2 hours, the car will be driven by the People's producer, Nia Campbell, while I sit shotgun and sort of just, talk us through the trip. Now, to our driver, Nia Campbell, how are we today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am good. I have to ask, whenever you're on a long road trip, as we take every single day, does the driver get to control the music because they're the ones who are holding the responsibility, or does the passenger control the music because the driver's got a lot of other stuff to worry about? Who controls the tunes?
The driver.
The driver gets control of the tunes.
And then the cup holder, they get the front cup holder.
Oh, I've never
the
even...
The passenger gets the back cup holder.
I didn't even know that there was a debate over cup holders. That's never something that's... But they're remarkably close together. Why is one better than the other?
It's just a respect thing.
It's just purely a respect thing. Fair enough. All right, I am going to start to... Wait, which one's better, the front one?
The front one is for the driver.
The front one's for the driver. Okay, front cup holder and the tunes for the driver, because the passenger doesn't have to do anything but hang out and just support
and control the GPS.
The driver and control the GPS. Very true. Got to make sure you're punching in that address and keeping an eye on those exits. We don't plan on taking very many exits today. We are going to cruise right through this trip of Live Impact News with plenty that has already happened today and plenty more still to come. And we're actually going to begin with a live event that is happening right now, a U.S. attorney announcing federal charges related to international firearms trafficking. We just had this come across our live news feed. Let's head out there live right now and listen in more on these charges.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Cheryl Harrell. I'm the acting special agent in charge of ATF's Tampa Field Division. I'm proud to join U.S. Attorney Kehoe this afternoon. Today's announcement is a sneak peek into the complex story about a sophisticated transnational criminal organization that until recently fueled violent crime in Canada for sheer profit. The group's patterns of activity span from October of 2023 to June of 2024 and included purchasing and trafficking firearms and deadly drugs that were later linked to homicides, shootings, and clandestine drug labs across the border. Fortunately, this type of case falls squarely into ATF's mission. We find and arrest the worst of the criminals, including those who sponsor gun violence, and bring them to justice. We began investigating this 5-person enterprise in May of 2024 and have left no stone unturned. From Canada to Florida, where ATF arrested Alfredo Santana in Miami on December the 4th, and also Tyler Corbin in Tampa on December the 8th. From the beginning, ATF set out to achieve 3 objectives. First and foremost was to objectively follow the facts and intelligence wherever they led us. Second, we identified the group's hierarchy and prioritized criminal charges. Third, we deconstructed the enterprise's pattern of activities to obtain criminal charges, which are outlined in the July 2025 federal indictment. I won't reveal the operational details of this case because it's still active, but we can confirm that at least 29 illegally trafficked firearms have already been directly linked to crime scenes in Canada. The good news is that this transnational criminal organization is no longer in business in Canada or in the United States, and we're all much safer today because of it. Defendants named this afternoon face serious charges for fueling violent crime, and thanks to the relentless determination of the men and women of ATF and our law enforcement partners, the Canada Border Services Agency, HSI's Fort Lauderdale Field Office, and of course our federal prosecutors. With that, I'll hand the podium back to U.S. Attorney Kehoe.
Thank you, Cheryl. One thing I overlooked is obviously the profit motive here. The profit motive is significant. For instance, just as an example, if you go to a federal firearms licensee, you can purchase a Glock hand pistol for approximately $500. It is being sold in the black market in Canada for $5,000. So the profit is quite enormous. The same is true with AR-15s and AK-47s. They're being sold up in Canada for approximately $10,000 a piece. So if anybody's looking for a reason why this is being done, that's the reason, because there's a lot of money involved. Any questions?
How much does this shine a light on the difficulty in preventing gun crime when the main things that authorities seem to deal with are A, stolen guns, and B, guns that can't be tracked through legitimate purchase?
Well, let's take that. These particular guns, for instance, the federal firearms licensees filled out multiple purchase forms, and that has greatly assisted in this investigation. So they did the right thing. These weapons were purchased for cash, most instances in cash, and those forms were filled out. Now, that's when you go to an FFL. There is oftentimes a person-to-person sale that doesn't trigger a FFL licensee. So it's those are a bit more difficult to track, but we did track many of these weapons that were purchased by Corbin through the multiple sales purchase forms.
Can you describe what else this group was doing, how you found them, what they do here in town, that sort of thing?
Well, to be very frank with you, the weapon that was seized at a homicide scene in Canada we tracked it back, ATF tracked it back to a purchase by Corbin approximately 31 days before the homicide took place. That's what...
A legal purchase.
A legal purchase. A legal purchase that he made of that weapon was tracked back by ATF to Tampa, and that began the investigation. That began the investigation with ATF, HSI, and the Canadian authorities, where multiple weapons were seized at various crime locations. As we said, we have 29. We have reason to believe there are significantly more weapons involved here than the 100-plus that we know about. We think that it's well into 200. And as this goes on, we will, in fact, come up with more seizures. I'm confident of that. But that's how it happened. It started very small, came back to us, and we went from there.
You don't believe they're hooked into a larger organization, and this is only 5 guys. Is it just them running this ring?
Well, I mean, this is an organization that is involved in a variety of other things that the investigation, as it unfolds, will develop and is being developed by the Canadian authorities. This is just one small aspect of it, and that has to do with their firearms purchases. How does a criminal organization get firearms? They use a system such as this, where they're purchasing weapons and then smuggling them into Canada. So don't look at this organization as just those involved in firearms. I submit to you that it's going to be some more significant than that as this moves on.
So most of these folks could also face Canadian charges as well.
That's right. In matters in addition to firearms. This shouldn't be just a narrow scope that just is of firearms. This piece that we have here involving this weapon coming out of our backyard here involves firearms going to an organization in Canada that's involved in multiple different aspects of activity.
I know you said that, this is far from being over this investigation. You all are going to get to the bottom of this. Anything that you can disclose, can you explain, what are the next steps here to really ending this organization that you all have identified?
We are going to continue to work with our our partners in Canada, ATF and HSI, and attempt to track down every weapon that this organization purchased and what happened to it. It's not sufficient that we know that it was just purchased. What happened to that weapon? And of course, we would like to try to find out what happened with that weaponry before we seize it at another crime scene. That doesn't help that we have it helps the investigation. But what we would ultimately like to do is to seize weapons before they end up at a homicide scene. Unfortunately, in this case, it happened on 3 different occasions. So we try to prevent that as we move into the future. That's the goal. That's the goal.
Did you say that
The last individual is yet to be arrested. Juman, Jhuman. He's a Canadian citizen as well. He's wanted in Canada on other issues. So we just don't have a handle on him right now. He's not in custody. I will tell you that.
Could he be in the U.S. or is it
I mean, I would be remiss if I even attempted to answer that question because I just don't know.
If I could ask, a couple weeks ago we were here and you did a press conference announcing the arrest of several suspects who were trafficking AI computer chips to
Yes.
China. This week, the president made sales like that legal to China. You spoke very passionately about the need to keep that technology out of Chinese hands. A, are you surprised by what the president did? And B, do you have any reaction to the president doing this? And does it jeopardize your investigation?
I'm not conversant for what was actually sold. The key to that particular sale was the disclosure. AI technology falls into a multiple different categories. What is the license for? And when you have a license, who is it going to? The case that we had here were pieces of AI equipment that were going into an AI technology to facilitate potential weapons development. Then they were making those sales through Thailand and the Philippines. That's a much different situation. When you go in and you get a license from the Department of Commerce or whomever you're getting that license from, DOD possibly, and then you're disclosing we are selling X, Y, and Z to those folks. That's a much different thing. The technology that was being sold or being pilfered and sold indirectly to the People's Republic of China was never disclosed, and the forms that we used, that the licenses that were obtained were false and not disclosed. Now, I will tell you that the United States does not sell every piece of AI equipment to anybody that wants it throughout the world. I can tell you that confidently, and that is why it's important to kind of pinpoint what feature of AI is being sold. So it's difficult to just say with a broad brush. Yes.
You're comfortable with that?
Oh, I'm not saying I'm comfortable with it. I'm saying that I don't know enough about the individual facts of that sale in order to give you a fulsome answer. And I don't want to mislead you and say, oh, I'm comfortable with this and I'm comfortable with that, when I'm not sure exactly what was being sold. Clearly, the authorities in the United States made a decision that whatever was sold was appropriate. Sir.
Can you give us more details on the weapons that were actually trafficked? You said an AK-47 at one point, but
They were Glocks mostly. The vast majority of them were handguns. A Glock is a very, very desirable weapon, very expensive. It's one that is very desirable among organizations. There were AK-47s, AR-15s as well. Not as many as Glocks, but I would say, if we look at the 100-plus breakdown, 75, maybe 80% are handguns, the rest are long guns.
what about this weapon that was used in that homicide that Corbin bought here in Tampa and used? Can you give me details on that particular weapon?
I think that was a handgun, was it
Yes.
not? Yeah, Cheryl informs me it was a handgun.
Was Corbin the only individual in this organization purchasing firearms?
No, as I think I noted before, the other supplier was Edward Noel. Those two were the ones that were involved in the purchase, and Santana was one of the individuals that was moving it up to Canada.
And do we know, do you guys have records since they were purchasing legally about how many firearms are registered to each individual?
The breakdown of that number I don't have at this point. I would say that of the ones we have, for instance, the 100-plus that we named in indictment, the vast majority of those were made by Corbin purchases. That being said, Noel made purchases as well.
And were they legally being taken over the border going through? I would figure they would have to claim that as they crossed into Canada. Were they doing it legally like that, or were they kind of smuggling it throughout, going without going?
The indications are that they're smuggling it. They're engaging the activities of a federal firearms licensee, which they are not. They're trafficking in those firearms, and they are acting like a dealer. So, no, they were smuggling it into Canada.
Do you have details of the homicide itself? Who was killed? Who did the shooting?
I do not.
What happened?
With all due respect, I do not. I don't have the details on the Canadian homicide. Do you have? No.
And then can you just describe as best you can, you may not be able to at all, but how you found this group, what sort of tip led you to them?
Well, it started with a particular homicide that we will look back at where this gun came from, what was going on. We had the multiple sales reports coming in, and it took some time to piece together who was involved in this. Then, of course, without going into operational details, there were search warrants that were executed on communication devices, which I'm sure you can imagine. We started to get some communication. It went from there. It wasn't something that just happened overnight. And throughout it all, we continued to stay in contact, on ATF, stay in contact with our friends in Canada to get the additional information and other weaponry. So this was all going on at the same time, but it did take a significant amount of time. It's, in fact, a couple of years.
In the U.S., would these guns have been worth much less than they are in Canada, just given the difference in availability of firearms?
Well, I mean, if you can purchase a weapon and go into a federal firearms licensee and buy a Glock, you can get it for significantly less than what $5,000 as of being sold in Canada. I'm not really conversant on what the pricing is for all Glock weaponry. I know there is a scale depending on the caliber, but you can. They made significant amount of money to doing it up there, which is the reason why they were doing it.
What did Mr. Corbin do before he got involved?
That's a good question.
Was this all he was doing?
He had
Anything like that?
well, he had no visible means of support, is what I can tell you.
Do you have any sense of how these 5 folks came together and started working together?
Well, part of that is operational at this point, and I just can't get into how they became associates. I can just tell you they were.
And just this is also just kind of a clarifying question. You say these crimes happened between October of 23 and June of 24. Can you explain kind of why the indictment took an additional 13 months? Was that because arrests were beginning to be made in June of 24? Why did they stop trafficking then?
Well, let me stop you right there. Number one, this investigation hasn't stopped. So I'm not saying they stopped prior to their arrest. But this is what our investigation developed, and the decision was made in conjunction with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms that this has to end. And we have to make an arrest and obviously take these people off the street from doing what they're doing.
Did you get a sense that they were on the all, that they knew that they were being investigated, or were there changes in their behavior or their activity?
I can't answer that question. I can't answer that question, and part of it is I just don't know. Anybody that's involved in a criminal organization who is careful is always changing their MO, and they're always changing how they're doing business. Now, I don't. That may just come from the fact that people are in that business and change because you don't want to have habits there that are being tracked by law enforcement, or whether or not they were onto something. We don't have any indications that they were all onto something right away.
Are they involved in trafficking guns that are winding up in the hands of criminals in the U.S.? Have they been linked to any local cases?
The only guns that we have found of the 29 that we've tracked back here are guns that were seized in Canada. That's not to say that they might not develop. I'm just telling you what we know right now. 29 were in crimes in Canada. That was seized by law enforcement in Canada.
Do you think that's just because it's more lucrative, just because they can get much more money for a gun in Canada than they could in the United States?
I don't know. I guess it's all about what the market can bear. If, in fact, you can go into a federal firearms licensee here and buy a Glock at significantly less, and it's a bit more difficult in Canada, that profit motive makes it incentivizes they're bringing those guns across the border for sale. That was the incentive.
Meaning the money.
Well, of course. I mean, if you're buying a handgun for $500 and you're selling it for $5,000, that's a significant markup. Any other questions, folks? Thank you very much. Have a good day. If we don't talk again, I think we probably will talk again. But if we don't, have a good holiday. Take care.
Okay, so there was your announcement regarding an international firearm trafficking operation and arrests and charges that have been brought in that operation. So the U.S. attorney, federal charges being announced in regards to, again, a firearm trafficking ring. They mentioned Canada multiple times. This is an international situation, and those are federal charges. So if we get any updates on the progression of that story, you also heard the mention that there was at least one person who they are still looking for, is what I heard from that press conference. So if there's any further updates on that story, we will continue to update you as we go. What's going on? I'm getting Nia Campbell's looking left, looking right. That is because she knows that I'm rambling and we've got to move on to our next segment, which, of course, is a check on your forecast with meteorologist Taylor Stephenson. Taylor, you saw that, right? Nia was looking around.
In response to what I was doing, I actually severely zoned out, and Nia noticed me zone out, and then she looked at me. I locked back in.
See,
but
yeah, I was just making sure she was okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
good.
I was actually going over, like, in my head, did my weather nugget, which is airing at 6 o'clock, did it do well? I was, like, thinking in my head, like, going over my
Okay.
stuff, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but I have something airing about why snowfall actually keeps temperatures cooler than if we had a snowless day. And it's not about the snow actually falling, it's the snow on the ground. So,
Is it the albedo?
yes, albedo, we talked.
It's the
Connor!
albedo. Hey-o. We learn lessons here on Live Impact
Yeah, we
News. We
do.
try to soak the information in. Okay, so that weather nugget is coming up. Now that you've had a chance to think over it, what do you think? Do you think it's going to... Are you excited for the people to see it?
I am, because I even talk about another phenomenon that goes through albedo, which is the urban heat island effect. So there's a little bit of some knowledge here and there in that little nugget. So it should be a good time, but it airs at 6 p.m., so I'll hold off
6
from that.
p.m. 6 p.m. on 13 News Now. Check in for that weather nugget. And I don't know if this will encourage you to watch or not, but I'll be anchoring that show, so I'll get a chance to see the weather nugget. So
Yeah.
very much looking forward to that. Now, it's interesting, Taylor, because you guys have had a wild 2 days, really even going back to last Friday and Thursday. It's been a very busy time in the weather lab back there.
It has.
But now we come to today where it's even just looking behind you, it is quite nice, very clear. Is this a relaxation period, a reset for you guys?
It is. And today I woke up and I was like, wow, what a nice day to, like, not worry about the weather. But unfortunately short-lived. So I'm going to soak in these next, like, 24 hours or so because I'm tracking another couple of systems. We shouldn't really see much in the way of snowfall, at least over the next few days. And things may shape up differently early next week as we're watching another system. But at least for today, all 5 meteorologists here at 13 News Now can breathe just a little bit deeper. So here's what I'm tracking next here for Hampton Roads in northeastern North Carolina. It's milder and windy today. Wind gusts near 30 miles per hour. I've seen some isolated up to about 32, 33 today. But it is noticeably warmer, which is funny because actually I'm a big lover of public transportation, especially on days where you really need it. And so today I, took the Tide, and they had the children in there with an inflatable person in a snowman costume reading books to kids on this winter wonderland train. Now, I wasn't a part of that. I was told to sit in the middle and like mind my business. But I think that it was fun that even after these snowy days, the winter spirit kind of coming upon us. Now, winter doesn't start for another week and a half or so on December 21st. That is a Sunday, so not this Sunday, but next Sunday. But it's nice to kind of have a little bit of a reprieve from the very cold temperatures and the snowfall that we got earlier, but the winter spirit's still here. Then I'm watching 2 Clipper systems, one on Friday and one on Sunday. The one on Friday could bring a couple of isolated flurries to places around the peninsulas, but mainly too far north and west for us to see a widespread snowfall. On Sunday, this will bring us maybe a cold rain, also the potential of maybe a wintry mix. As we get closer, though, to Sunday, these things will be nailed down. So don't worry too much right now. Just make sure to keep up and keep close to the forecast over the coming days. Then, as we speak of the coming days, temperatures will be kind of up and down a little bit, but mainly falling. Where on Monday, I'm expecting a huge Arctic blast where temperatures will only be a few degrees above freezing for afternoon high temperatures. Yes. The of disappointment.
Yes, I know. And the can take many different forms. That was certainly one of disappointment because right in the afternoon, when you would think the sun is shining and helping temperatures out, when you might get a little bit of warmth in between the cold morning and the cold night, it is still near freezing with the temperatures.
And it's going to be a brutal day. Plus, it's going to be windy. So even if it's in the mid to upper 30s, probably going to feel more like around freezing or the 20s throughout the day. So winter is coming in with a vengeance, and we haven't even hit, again, the first day of winter is not till the 21st. We have 11 days till then, and it's already feeling like we're really hitting the ground and running with winter. So let's talk about what's going on. You can see it outside from right behind me, but I'll give you a different angle of it here from my view of this camera here from downtown Norfolk. You can see that we are seeing clouds here today as we get into the next few days. Let's see if I can revamp these graphics to get them back on track. Looks like my graphics.
Max 1 isn't working for us.
I'm on Max 2.
Okay.
Well, Max 2 is not working. Okay. Yeah, it looks frozen. So that's fine. We can just talk through the forecast, and you can just put me back on camera. That's okay.
And this is what we like to call live impact news.
Yeah.
In the shows, when we have technical issues, we can work through them behind the scenes. A lot of times viewers will never really know all the things you're dealing with. When we're here, when we're live on this platform, sometimes we work through those things right on the show, which personally I kind of enjoy, and I hope that maybe everyone gets a little peek behind the curtain. So Taylor, talking through Max 2 is down.
Yeah.
Give us a description of what we got going on.
It actually just loaded too.
Okay,
If
so
you need
And
to
it
access
just
any
loaded.
Okay.
Nia
there we
Campbell
go.
with the magic touch
I
again.
actually didn't do anything that time.
I take it back.
It just needed a little time.
Yes.
It's okay. It's okay. It's a lazy Wednesday. I'll give it to it. So let's go ahead and go back to Max 2 so we can see what's going on outside. And right now, we're seeing the cloud cover, a few breaks in the clouds, but mostly cloudy at this moment. But temperatures are, again, in the upper 40s. Now, yesterday, we only reached a high for most places around the upper 30s to around 41 degrees. So we're already doing better, but still below normal. The reason why we're doing better today is because we have those south-southwest winds, and they're up to about 20 miles per hour. And when you have strong southwest winds, that pulls in a warmer air, and we call that warm air advection. So another tool for you guys to keep in your pocket. But to those south winds, always pulling that warmer air, but they are breezy. Right near Wachapreague, heading over the bay, we're seeing wind gusts as high as 25 to 35 miles an hour. Saluda, Newport News, 26 miles per hour. Down the south side, wind gusts as high as about 30, but it's mainly for Virginia Beach, Portsmouth, Norfolk, Chesapeake. Then down into the Outer Banks, wind gusts picking up a little bit. During the noon show, wind gusts rolling as high as about 20, 25. Now we're seeing some isolated gusts up to about 26 to 28. Now, looking at what's happening, high pressure's offshore, and again, that brings in a south wind, but we have a clipper system, and again, we call these, really, it's technically called an Alberta clipper system, but they can originate from a few places in Canada, so Canadian clipper systems. And we call it that because one, clipper, think of it of a clipper, kind of think a fast-moving object, but also when you talk about Alberta, that's one of the provinces in Canada. So a low-pressure system that's quickly moving that originates from Canada. So that's why we call it a clipper system.
Very nice. Also, a totally sullen and downtrodden basketball team, but that is for another segment.
Oh, no, not
Please
the Toronto
continue.
Clippers.
That would be the Los Angeles Clippers.
Oh,
but
look at
I'm
me.
so sorry, Taylor.
No, please correct me. Yes, you're right. You're right. I got
But you know
Canada
what?
all up in my head.
See, I walked you down the wrong path because we were talking Canada
Canada,
there,
it's
and then I
okay.
just interjected with an NBA
Yeah.
reference, which that's just
It's
bad
okay.
hosting. That's just
It's
bad
okay.
hosting
It's
on
all
my part
right.
right there.
It's all
That's
right.
all that is. And you know who's enjoying this is Nia Campbell.
I
She's
know.
loving every second of this.
I just embarrassed myself. It's okay, though. It's all right.
Absolutely not. And we know you got the Oklahoma colors on today.
Yes,
You got your
crimson
mind on
and
college
cream.
football. Mm-hmm.
crimson and cream, really crimson and corn, but that's a little history lesson that we'll get into later.
Crimson and corn.
Yes.
Is that like the official Oklahoma?
That's
kind of thing?
officially what's supposed to be like maize. You know how corn is like a little bit of like a creamy, little soft yellow white. Technically, it's supposed to be crimson and corn.
Crimson and corn.
But it's
Naya,
crimson and
we're
cream.
going to sound, people are going to think we're Oklahoma grads when we're out there because we're going to have all the lingo down.
Yeah.
We're going to be saying boomer. We're going to be saying crimson and corn. It's going to be great. Okay, I got us totally off track there.
Sorry. Yes.
Please
Please
go,
correct
Taylor.
me. The only team that really matters to me in the NBA anyways is the Atlanta Hawks. So that's all I care about. All right, so let's moving on back to weather. Those Canadian Clipper systems, you see bringing some snowfall to the northeast, some rainfall to parts of Washington. We're seeing those big systems. We'll see our next system coming through later. Right now, radar for us is sleeping quiet. As we head through the next few hours, we'll still see those elevated wind gusts up to about 30 miles per hour. Temperatures will rise to the upper 40s, lower 50s. That's as best as we'll do today. So an improvement from yesterday by about 10-ish degrees, 15 degrees.
Okay.
But we're still below normal. We should be somewhere around 56 degrees. So about 5-ish degrees below normal. Cloud cover continues. Later on tonight, we'll see clearing in the clouds, but notice how wind changed direction from southwest to directly west. That is bringing in our next round of cool air as we get northwest winds tomorrow morning. So we'll start off in the middle to upper 30s and lower 40s. Not bad for a December morning, but temperatures will struggle to climb throughout the day. By the time we get to around this time tomorrow, we'll be in the lower to middle 40s and we'll pretty much stay there through the rest of the day, even though we'll have a lot of sunshine. So expect another cooler than average day for your Thursday. Now moving on to Friday for our Clipper system that's coming through, you can see that on Friday, cloud cover increases. Temperatures start off again in the lower to middle and upper 30s. And then a few little areas of some snowfall right around the early afternoon for the peninsulas, maybe extreme western south side. But that's about it. Most of this will be concentrated to western and central Virginia. We'll just maybe get, again, a passing flurry. I don't think accumulations will be much of anything, if at all. And then temperatures throughout the day on Friday may only be at best, and I'll scroll it back just a little bit, may only be at best in the upper 30s to the lower 40s. So another cool day for us. Now let's go ahead and look at the next 10 days, and not much relief until we get
You dressed that up so well with your tone that if I just kind of heard the tone of that statement, I would have thought we had some wonderful temperatures coming. The way that was great.
No,
that made me
that's
feel
why you
better
have to
about
listen.
the cold.
Yeah,
Yes.
you got. We all have one mouth but two ears, so
Oh.
for a reason.
Is this okay? Where'd you get that saying? That sounds like
Kindergarten. I don't
Okay.
know. Like
Yeah.
you know how they tell you got one mouth and two ears, so close your mouth and open up your ears.
like
All
that.
right, so as we progress in the next basically 10 days, you can see that temperatures rise just slightly on Saturday back to the lower 50s, but then our next Clipper system brings in this real big blast of cool air. So Sunday, we have the potential of maybe seeing an isolated shower or two, and then Monday, boom, temperatures at best maybe barely above freezing. Then we get right back. We might hit near normal finally.
What? Look at Thursday.
Finally,
Look at next Thursday.
Next Thursday. So not tomorrow, but the week after, which would put us at Thursday, December the
Getting
18th?
Yeah.
18th.
Mm-hmm.
So the 18th, getting closer to the Thursday before Christmas. Or really the week before Christmas, because Christmas is on a Thursday. So the week before Christmas, we may be right there near average, and hopefully we can kind of keep on those 50s trends. But we'll see. But that's pretty much the gravity of what I have for today, as it is a much chiller day than the past couple. As you see, our 5 to 7 day forecast pretty much reflects the temperature trends. But yes, isolated flurries possible for places very far north or west, an isolated shower or maybe even a little bit of a mix on Sunday, but those details to be fine-tuned over the coming days. And then sunshine returns early next week, but it will be breezy and cold on Monday, and then highs back in the mid-40s on Tuesday of next week.
Okay. Cold, but hold on till next Thursday. And other than a little bit of activity Friday, a little reprieve here in terms of precipitation that might be
Yeah,
falling.
and any
Okay.
snowfall we do have still for those areas that got 4, 5, 6 inches of snowfall, most of that should melt by the course of the day today, as temperatures are going to be well above normal. And even over the course of the next few days, even from Wednesday through Sunday, we'll still be above normal. So any leftover things will continue to melt throughout the week. But I think by the time we get to about tomorrow afternoon, most of it should be melted.
Okay, awesome. And so we can take a look at our tower cams here and see that out on the boardwalk at the oceanfront, there are people walking their dog, I think maybe roller skating down the boardwalk. So a very different viewpoint than we had just 2 days ago.
Yes.
When it was empty and cloudy. So even though it's cold, we're going to enjoy the sunshine.
We are, and well, today it's going to be pretty cloudy, but tomorrow definitely much sunnier. It just will be cooler, but as you see people walking the boardwalk, you also now during this time of year can drive on the boardwalk because they have the lights there. You can see one of those arches sitting there right from our Dairy Queen camera. And also waves much calmer. They were very choppy earlier this week, but calm scene. But I think most people are probably...
Taylor, you just stole Naya's segment. Naya does the wave check. That's Naya Campbell's wave check segment.
Check.
Oh, no. Okay, that's okay.
Wait.
That's okay.
I want to
Listen,
know more about this.
Taylor can get in on the wave check. Anytime we've got a wave check, we got to get Naya on to explain the break to us.
No, I don't have much of an explanation. Yours is actually better. It's just I was really monitoring the waves over the past few days because it was really windy. So they looked so nice. And I just basically, what did I say? I said...
You said all kinds of things. You were checking in on the waves. We had a wave segment, 2 or 3 straight days in a row. Nia Campbell was on the wave check. So now it's official. We're going to try to get it sponsored. See what we can do. See if we can turn this into a thing. Maybe one day we'll do the whole first hour of streaming. Will just be the Nia Campbell wave check.
And we need not only water waves, but waves. When I think of a wave check, I think of hair.
Okay. So we'll do a little double entendre there, and we'll start. We'll be checking in on both waves. It's not the first thing I think of, but yes, I have heard that, of course.
That's crazy because that was the first thing I thought of. That's why I thought it was so cool.
Yeah, not the first thing I thought of. No, but it will be from now on. now that you guys have taught me a little bit. Okay, so we'll do the double wave check with Nia Campbell going forward, featuring Taylor Stephenson.
Okay, yay.
Okay. All right, so we've got ourselves a segment, but for today, the waves are calm. Everything looks nice out on the Atlantic Ocean, and everything looks pretty nice outside. Okay, Taylor Stephenson, we know that you have already had a very long day. So is there anything else you would like to add before we let you go?
No, I just want y'all to enjoy this day and, enjoy the fact that it's calm because I think we take calm days for granted.
100%. What a message to end it. I, for one, feel inspired, and that fits well with one of our favorite slogans here on Live Impact News. Go ahead, Nia Campbell.
Live in the moment.
Live in the moment.
Carpe
That
diem.
is what we do. That is what Taylor Stephenson does. She also does all of the brilliant forecasting all week for us here. Don't forget, 6 p.m. to tune in for a little albedo lesson.
Yes.
Okay, on our regular station, 13 News Now itself. Okay, for the time being, we're going to do a brief reset here in the studio. It's already 1:37 p.m. Our Virginia Senator Tim Kaine held his Virginia press availability earlier today. He touches on a number of topics. It's about 20 minutes. We're going to listen into at least the beginning of that, and then we have some other events that we want to get to as well. Quite a few that happened this morning and maybe a live event coming up. First, let's listen to Tim Kaine, and then we'll meet back here in the studio.
Okay, Senator, whenever you're ready.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining. As always, it seems like I'm always in the middle of votes when we do these at midday, but I just cast vote on vote 1, and I have a little bit of time till vote 2. Glad to talk to you. I want to talk to you about an important matter dealing with the vote we'll have tomorrow on the ACA tax credits and a couple of items on national security. The Republican reconciliation bill that I opposed in late June extended tax credits for the wealthiest Americans. The tax credits extended just to the top 1% of American citizens, totaled $1 trillion over 10 years. But while the Republicans were extending those tax credits for the uber wealthy, they reduced tax credits to support everyday Americans' ability to afford health insurance. About 25 million people receive subsidies through the Affordable Care Act. The Republicans refused to extend those enhanced subsidies to fully extend those subsidies for 10 years would have cost $350 billion, not cheap, but only 1/3 the cost of the tax giveaway to the wealthiest Americans who didn't need a tax giveaway. We're going to have a vote tomorrow to extend the premium tax credits for 3 years, with a commitment that we will work during that 3-year period on a variety of strategies, including many bipartisan strategies to bring healthcare costs down. We're at the end of the open enrollment period. People are really struggling in Virginia as they see what their premium increases are likely to be next year. The Republicans have an opportunity to fix the damage that they created in that reconciliation bill, and we'll ask them to do that. We hear the Republicans may offer an alternative proposal, but there's no reason to throw new, ideas into the mix here right at the end. People want these premium tax credits extended. The popularity with the American public is at about 75%. Extend the tax credits. That's the vote we'll have. All 47 Democrats will vote yes. We need 13 Republicans who've listened to their constituents to vote for healthcare affordability rather than spiking premiums. Second, on national security topics. The National Defense Authorizing Act, which we voted on in committee right before July 4. Now we have fully negotiated this, and I think we voted on it in the floor of the Senate in September. We've negotiated a final package with the Republican majority on the House side. The House is voting on it this week. We'll take it up next week. We'll put out a full press statement, as we did with the earlier versions, of the many wins that are in this bill for Virginia and for our nation's security: enhanced investments in shipbuilding, military pay, quality of life improvements such as housing or construction of child care centers and other important amenities for our troops and their families to maintain steady retention. But one item that I'm particularly proud of, because I've been working on it for so long, is getting Congress to repeal the Iraq war authorizations from 1991 and 2002. Congress has not repealed a war authorization since the Gulf of Tonkin resolution that was a legal authority getting the United States into the Vietnam War. That resolution was repealed as part of an appropriations bill in the early 1970s. So it's been 50 years. 50 years of Congress often defaulting on its responsibility with respect to war making, allowing presidents to take unilateral action without sufficient congressional oversight. And I came to the Senate in 2013 with this as an obsession. Congress needs to get back in the game, exercising its Article I powers with respect to war making, but also to war ending. This passed significantly in both houses. It's now part of the NDAA. When President Trump signs it, it will be time to then say this is a war that's in the rearview mirror, and we should take special effort at that time to thank all who served during the Iraq War, who, in my view, never really got the thanks they deserved. Declaring this chapter over is some closure, but we need to make sure we provide Iraq War veterans with the thanks that they have long deserved. Another important national security matter that I've been really focused on is the, in my view, illegal military strikes that this administration is carrying out in international waters near the Americas and the threatened invasion of Venezuela. The Constitution is clear. We shouldn't be at war without a vote of Congress. No one is arguing that these operations are authorized by Congress. Some are maintaining that the president can undertake them on his own. In my view, that is completely contrary to the Constitution. I have read the legal rationale surrounding these military actions, and I can't really discuss it because it's only available to me in a classified setting, but I can give you my conclusion. The legal rationale is very, very weak, and if it were more generally adopted, it would completely eliminate the constitutional clear provision in Article I that it's up to Congress to declare war. One recent controversy surrounding the legality of these strikes, and there are many controversies. I mean, just to recap, the Southern Command Chief Legal Advisor opined before the strikes began that they were not lawful. The Southern Commander, Admiral Halsey, was locked in a war of wills with the Pentagon over the legality of this strike, and he was forced to retire as the leader of Southern Command after a 3+ decade career of patriotic service to the American public purely for raising questions about the legality of these strikes. The United Kingdom, one of our closest allies, has stopped sharing intelligence with the United States on activities in the region because they're worried that their intelligence will be used unlawfully to carry out these strikes. When key military leaders, when key allies are challenging the legality of these strikes, it's well past time for the Senate Armed Services Committee, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee to have a hearing, a public hearing. We have not had a single public hearing in the Senate about these military operations. 95 days in, nearly 90 people killed, dozens of strikes, huge legal questions. And the most recent legal questions, was it lawful to slaughter survivors of the September strike as they clung to wreckage on the high seas? The U.S. laws about military engagement would suggest that was unlawful. International humanitarian law suggests it was unlawful. And the Pentagon is in full damage control mode. But here's something that's interesting. The Trump administration has shown the video over and over and over again of the strike that disabled the craft on September 2nd. They're using it to tout their military acumen. They've almost turned it into a TV or social media commercial. But when we've asked them to show the video of the survivors being killed, Secretary Hegseth said over the weekend that he was concerned that showing that video may reveal important intelligence sources or methods. Well, how would that be the case if they've already thumped their chest and taken the victory lap and showed the entire world the first portion of the strike? The reason that the Trump administration is now walking back President Trump's promise to make public this video is they know how Americans would be sickened if they saw it. They know troops and their families would say, this isn't the American military ethos that we were led to expect. They would see this and wonder, is this the new standard that other nations could apply to American troops who are shipwrecked? If it's okay for the United States, it's probably okay for others. And so the Pentagon is in full damage control mode, and it's important that this video be released. Finally, one last national security item that's just recent. Yesterday, the president surprised a number of us by announcing that the United States, after months of appropriate delay and limitation, was going to allow the sale of NVIDIA enhanced artificial intelligence chips to China. These are the most high-end microchips in the world. And the U.S. has traditionally not allowed transfer of such technologies to China because of the belief that China could, A, use those technologies to advance and accelerate its defense investments, including defensive capacities against the United States. But second, the high likelihood that China would try to steal the intellectual property, reverse engineer, and then use those chips and narrow the current significant gap between U.S. computing power and Chinese computing power. So what explains the reason that the president yesterday announced that the Commerce Department will finalize a route to allow the transfer of these technologies, which heretofore we have not allowed? Well, here's what troubles me. The U.S. has taken an ownership interest in NVIDIA, and the president announced that any sale to China would include a 25% surcharge, and that money would come to the U.S. taxpayer. Okay, so the U.S., because we might make some money, we're willing to degrade our national security edge over China? These chips are useful in AI applications that include nuclear command and control. This is not minor stuff. In addition, public reporting has indicated that the CEO of NVIDIA, who has long lobbied for the ability to sell these chips into China, made a sizable contribution to the construction of the president's ballroom that is now being built following the destruction of the East Wing of the White House. So I have deep, deep concern, and I intend to raise this in the National Security Committees, Armed Services, and Foreign Relations I serve. Are we now willing to hand over the significant areas where we have a qualitative military edge over China? Are we willing to hand over those technologies because we'll make a few bucks, or because somebody's going to contribute to a vanity project ballroom for this president? I'm deeply troubled about that, and I'm going to insist that my colleagues and I get to the bottom of it. With that, I'm glad to open it up and take your questions.
First, we'll go to Mark with CBS 19.
Okay, we are going to pause on Senator Kane's press conference for now. We heard the entirety of his opening statement, but we're going to pause because a live feed has come come our way that is really unique to any that we have gotten in our time doing live impact news here. The description that we have is troopers and cowboys round up escaped cows after a semi-collision. This is I-70 in Missouri. So we're going to take a greater look at this. Let's go ahead and take this full here, Naya, if you don't mind, and see if we can actually get a sense of what's happening here. I don't see any cows. Hopefully no people or cows were hurt in this. Again, this is escaped cows that happened after a semi-collision. And you can see sort of a runway that extends from the semi-truck with the blue, sort of the blue front, that then extends into another semi-truck that is on the road. So my guess would be from observation that the truck with the blue front portion was a part of the crash. And that was the truck that had the cows in it. And now they are transporting the cows into the other semi-truck. I don't see any cows that have escaped on the roadway or anywhere in the surrounding area. We hope that no people were hurt in this. We hope that no cows were hurt in this. You would imagine it's very frightening for everyone involved, both the people and the animals, for a truck like that to get into a collision on the highway. So the description we got does say escaped cows, but that's not something that we've noticed yet. Perhaps that portion of things was taken care of before we came on air with this image. So for now, all we see are emergency officials, the truck that appears to have been a part of the collision, and then a truck that looks like it's there to handle any of the remaining cows that are going to be transported from the first semi-truck. So that is all we can see right now. Again, this is I-70 in Missouri. And, one interesting part of this is you would certainly expect emergency officials and law enforcement officers to be a part of this. And we do see, ambulance, fire truck. We see troopers, and we've been told that troopers will be involved. But it also says cowboys are involved in helping with the escaped cows, which rarely do you see. And it looks like I do see an animal. All right, so at the base of the semi-truck at the top of your screen, there it does look like there is a cow. Oh, there goes another one. Okay, there go the cows. They are being transferred from one semi to another. A number of cows sort of briskly moving along the path there. And it looks like they're all, healthy and safe and okay for now. So we did actually get to see a few cows being transported as they make their way onto the new semi-truck for the end of their journey. Okay, so I wonder if that's all of them. It didn't look like many, but of course we don't know how many typically get stored on a vehicle like this. It looks like maybe they are getting ready to take down that apparatus. So all the cows, people are now entering into the original semi-truck that was transporting the cows. Let's see if maybe there's some that are in there that are a little more hesitant to make their way across the constructed bridge there. Cannot blame them at all. I'm sure, the cars whizzing by right next to a highway, you just got into a collision. I'm sure it is quite frightening. I don't know that I would want to leave the back of that semi-truck either. And what else you can see is kind of the skid marks where that semi-truck went off the road. Just to the left of the fire truck there, you can see pretty deep indentations. I mean, we're pretty high up, and that is a clear indentation where that truck likely skidded off the road. And there's some debris around there as well as we switch to a view that's sort of even higher up here. But again, still no sign of any cows that may have escaped. So far, all we've seen is an orderly transport from one semi-truck to another. So now we're kind of just observing. There doesn't look like there's any further action going on at the moment. Naya, have you ever seen anything like this? I don't know that I've ever seen a transfer of animals from one truck to another on the highway.
Nope, never seen it before.
No, this is not. And we'll be driving on the highway here in Virginia, and you'll see semi-trucks drive by that maybe have chickens in them or smaller vehicles with horses in them and things like that. but I've never seen one of them get into a collision. Very scary for everyone involved. And again, the number one priority here is that everyone is safe and healthy. But for the cows that we did see, they kind of skirted right across. They looked to be fine. They followed along the path perfectly into the waiting semi-truck. And good that they were able to get another truck there that's capable of transporting cows at all. It's not. Oh, there go a few more. Okay, there were some more cows waiting in that truck. Okay, those
I wonder
ones.
how many they're able to fit in there.
You would hope. And there goes another. Okay, one of them's headed back. Nope, keep on going. He took the advice of his friends. Oh, they're moving. They got a little jog going, getting across there. All right, I'm sure. And again, you hope. I'm sure it's very scary for these animals to be in this situation, from one truck to another on the side of the highway after being involved in a collision. Okay, so we saw another group make their way across as we speak here. All right, now we'll do a brief sort of regroup here while we keep this image up to see if anything else happens out of the ordinary for an event that is already quite unique here. We're waiting on a couple of different things right now. We do have some live events. The National Transportation and Safety Board chair is setting up a press conference right now as we speak. It has not yet begun. There's an expectation that we will hear from Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, with a further expectation that interest rates will be cut today. That's some reporting from CNN has indicated that will happen. So we're also waiting to see if Jerome Powell will take to the podium in time for us to air that here on our stream. That's something that we're looking over. The Federal Reserve is in a difficult spot here as inflation remains high and the jobs report remains low, which means you kind of have to choose to favor one of the other or the other with your decision on interest rates. So waiting to see what they do and to hear from Jerome Powell. Neither of those events have actually started yet, and there go more cows. And it does look like maybe they are running into a little bit of trouble now. There's kind of a cluster of those cows there as they try to get them back on the path into that other semi-truck. And there we go. The traffic jam has kind of been alleviated at least a little bit. Everybody hard at work to make sure all these animals get transported safely. And so wow, quite a few cows in that truck. We've now seen 3 different groups of cows go across. That semi-truck was carrying a lot of wildlife there, and that feed just went out on us, and so we catch me with the side profile there. It looks like another feed did come back, but I think for now, perhaps we can move on. We've seen quite a bit of what was going on there with a semi-truck that after a collision had a semi-truck carrying cows in a collision. We were told cowboys and troopers rounding up escaped cows. All we've seen is cows be transferred from one semi to the other. What a unique event. And I can only imagine that slowing traffic down as those cars that you see over on the left, yearn to see what's going on over there. I can't imagine driving. Yeah, oh yeah, and now we're getting a look at maybe some traffic that this has caused in the surrounding area. I can't imagine driving down the highway and I look over to the side of the road and a gaggle of cows is being transported between 2 semi-trucks.
Yeah.
I mean, Naya, would you stop and pull over and just watch the festivities?
Not.
No, you got to keep it going. You got places to be. You got things to do. Okay, now I wonder if this is zooming out because there are some cows that that escaped and are lost in the surrounding area. That obviously is a scenario that you hope would never happen, because if there's in the event that those cows could come in danger, I guess is worst case scenario here if they were to have escaped. So I wonder if that's why the camera is sort of panning around to see if they can find any of the cows on the loose. I mean, imagine being in the surrounding community. Imagine having a home in this area or a farm in this area, and you get word that there's a bunch of cows on the loose. That could be a little bit scary for the people that live around there as well. So looks like there's still work to be done over there on I-70 in Missouri as they try to make sure that all of those cows are accounted for. We're waiting to see if there's a chance that they do zoom in on an area where there it is.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly as we thought. One of the cows He seems okay, or the cow seems all right, though he is headed towards a neighborhood
houses,
there.
yeah.
Only one of those backyards is fenced in. All right, so we do have at least one escaped cow, and maybe they're going to zoom in on another. And that is a really, I mean, he is headed right for that neighborhood, or the cow is headed right for that neighborhood. It's difficult to know. I mean, hopefully, let's see, it's 1:59 p.m., so it's certainly possible that kids are home from school. You would hope that the message has gotten to all of these surrounding areas to be on alert for any cow. Now, we've kind of lost it. I think it's down there by the bottom of your screen, and it does look like there are officials who have moved into that small kind of cul-de-sac looking road, and now the cow's headed back the other way.
Oh, look,
There's a person there. There's two people there. Maybe that's the cowboys that they brought in. All right, so there's two people there now chasing the cowboys, at least, or chasing the cows away from the houses back into the open field. Again, this is obviously a very unique situation. We've never seen anything like this on Live Impact News. But we do want to note that as much as you may look at this and just think, wow, this is interesting, you hope that all of the wildlife and people end up all right in this situation. The cow is headed away from the neighborhood. This is as focused as I've ever seen Nia Campbell on her monitor. Come on, Nia was locked in there. I mean, she's always locked in on our show, but just on one part. Usually she's looking at about 5 different screens.
I was just trying to really lock in and see if there were more people trying to get this cow, because it's only one person.
We see the
I would
one
imagine
person.
There needs to be a couple.
Right, and you see the one person kind of just calmly walking after the cow. I had seen a second person down by the neighborhood, but it doesn't look like they followed along through the field. It looks like there's a truck at the bottom of your screen just below our banner that may be helping here. And this is a difficult situation. It looks like it's no easy task getting a hold of this cow. I mean, it is a wild animal after all. All right, so now he's coming in contact with the truck. The cow's kind of wondering what this is, and now he's headed the other direction. And I don't know if maybe we should take this off. It looks like the truck is being very cautious to not make any sort of contact with the cow, but off the cow goes. Okay, let's do an update for anyone just tuning in. This is on I-70 in Missouri. A semi-truck that was carrying a bunch of cows collided on the highway, and some cows have escaped. We saw most of the cows being safely transported to a new truck, but this one cow, at least, does appear to have escaped into the surrounding field, and is making a break for it. I mean, this cow is out. He is not waiting around. I mean, we did lose the feed again. You can come back out to me if you need to. Okay, so we have lost that feed of something really unique that we've never totally seen for. It was difficult to know how to approach that, because you hope this is a situation where there's nothing bad is going to befall the cow, and you certainly hope that everyone was safe following that collision, because there was a collision. When we were watching the 2 semi-trucks earlier, you did see 1 ambulance and a fire truck. There wasn't an overwhelming amount of emergency personnel, at least in the viewpoint that we saw, and we haven't gotten any updates that anyone was hurt. Let's see. It looks like we have one update that came in. Okay, they said they are at 1:54 p.m. We got a note on ABC that says they're unsure if there are any injured cattle on the scene at this time. All the cattle that we saw going between the 2 semi-trucks appeared to be fine, and the cattle that was going through the field was moving okay, at the very least. Certainly we don't know from where we're sitting if they're okay, but seem to be moving okay. All right, so that was an interesting detour. I believe when we started the Live Impact News today, Naya, we were sort of using the analogy of a long road trip, and we said we weren't going to be taking any exits. We were going straight through Live Impact News. I do believe that was an exit that we just took there. But it's the type of thing that you really cannot experience on any other type of news platform or most other types of news platforms, so we want to make sure that we take advantage of that. That cow was making a run for it through that field. All right, hope that the cow ends up okay. Hope any people involved in that collision are okay. we are going to move forward here on Live Impact News. We'll give you any updates if we get any on that situation. Okay, let's do this, Naya. I do believe that our representative, one of our representatives right here in Hampton Roads, District 2 in Virginia Beach, Jen Kiggins, spoke at the podium earlier today during a GOP press conference in Washington, D.C. Now, I think we're going to go ahead and play that press conference while we wait for our other live events to kick off. We are going to, our plan, now it does look like one of our live events is actually kicking off right now. Okay, we're going to head out to Kentucky for an update on the Kentucky State University shooting that occurred yesterday. That just went live. Let's head out there right now, and we'll look to hear from Representative Kiggins later on.
State University. While we released preliminary details last night, we are now able to release the identities of those involved and the specific charges filed. First, it is with deep regret that I confirm the identity of the victim who lost his life. He was DeJohn Fox, a 19-year-old male and a student at Kentucky State University. Our deepest condolences go out to Mr. Fox's family and friends during this incredibly difficult time. The second victim, also a KSU student, remains in intensive care at the hospital. Regarding the investigation into the shooter, we have formally charged Jacob Lee Bard with murder and assault in the first degree. Mr. Bard is a resident of Evansville, Indiana. Our investigation has determined that Mr. Bard is a parent of a Kentucky State University student. We want to reassure the community that this was an isolated incident involving these specific individuals, and there are no active safety concerns on the campus of Kentucky State University at this time. This investigation is ongoing. We would like to thank our partners who assisted at the scene and continue to aid us, including the Franklin County Sheriff's Office, the Kentucky State Police, and the Kentucky State University Campus Police, among others. Kentucky State University is an integral part of Frankfort, and a tragedy like this affects us all. Our thoughts are with the students, faculty, and staff as they navigate this difficult time. I'll now take a few questions.
There was a video circulating that it seemed like a group of kids. Some people said jumped one of the children, and this was the father whose kid got jumped, and that's why he shot. Can you elaborate on just what led up to this shooting?
It's really too early in the investigation right now to really to give any details on what led up to it. At this point, a lot of that would just be some speculation. We have collected that video and have that as well.
Can you confirm that everyone in that video was involved in the incident in some sort of way? And then a follow-up to that, an eyewitness who was there, who saw the video as well, there are two cop cars, or it appears at least one police car on the street right there, right in front of the building. Were there university officers present when this happened?
There were university officers present when this happened.
Were they involved in separating that, or had they gotten there during this dispute, or can you elaborate on?
I don't want to go into the details of it, but obviously when this happened, they acted quickly and were able to prevent any further any further injuries, and were able to get that individual into custody.
Moving forward, will there be any additional police presence on campus?
Mm-hmm. As far as what KSU's do, well, we are assisting them right now, us and the Franklin County Sheriff's Office, with some extra officers currently, and we'll continue that as long as they request.
Is there any surveillance video that you guys are kind of pulling from to help you with this investigation? And is there anything that the public can do to kind of assist you guys right now?
Yeah, we were able to get video from the campus. Has a lot of good security cameras. We were able to gather that. I'm not going to go into what is detailed on that. What was your follow-up there?
How can the public assist you right now with this investigation?
Obviously, anyone that witnessed it, we want to talk to them, and we need to get as much detail as we can from anybody that was on scene. Also, we know that there were a number of people that were out recording different things, and if they could bring that in and share it with us, it's imperative that we are able to see that.
Can you confirm how many students are related to Bard at the university? Because I believe there's 2 listed on the baseball roster with the last name, both from Evansville. Are those both his children?
I can't confirm that.
I cannot confirm that.
I do have a question for the university president.
Yes.
We got a complaint from one of the families to our newsroom and saw another one on Facebook as well from another family that they didn't get any calls from the university when their children were involved in this. Can the university confirm if calls were put into the families who were impacted by this and when that happened?
Thank you for the question. I called the numbers that were provided to us. I spoke to the mother of the deceased yesterday, and this morning the mother called me, and she and I spoke. The one who is injured, I was at the hospital yesterday with them. I spoke to the mom. I was there very late last night, and this morning I was there again, and I met with the student. So the parent, and I saw the student as well. So I don't know where that's coming from, but I'm doing everything I can to be there for the parents and the student.
For the child who was injured that you spent time with, when was that call made to their family initially after, or did you make contact once you got to the hospital?
I made the call around 4:30, 5 o'clock. As soon as I got the number, I asked for the number. Once the numbers were provided to me, I placed the call.
How is the student doing in the hospital?
Still in critical condition. They will be doing another surgery this afternoon. Hopefully, we'll know more tomorrow or the day after.
This is the second shooting on campus this semester. Can you talk about that, give the university statement on that, and then also talk about, is campus a safe place for students moving forward?
The campus is a safe place for the student moving forward. We're doing everything we can. We have added more police officers. The mayor, the judge, and I had a meeting to see how we can collaborate more. The judge was with me this morning. And we will continue that discussion and see what we can do once the investigation is completed.
Can you explain the safety alert system across campus, and did it kind of happen as designed? I talked to some students who just said that they received emails. I didn't know if there was an application that people were kind of using, or students are advised to use when something like this happens.
We test this application all the time. We let students know what to expect in case of emergency, and we follow our protocol yesterday.
If I can go back to the police chief here, can you talk any about why the suspect may or may not have been on campus, or may have been on campus?
No.
Mr. Tracy, could you expand on this a bit? Was there a meeting between Mr. Bard's? Did Mr. Bard have a meeting yesterday with the school dean about his son's safety on campus and about any ongoing physical altercations that may have been occurring between others on campus and his son?
I can't comment on that right now. Okay. All right. Thank you all very much. We appreciate your time. Have a great day.
Okay, so a tragic day at Kentucky State University yesterday. Devastating news that one student, a 19-year-old student, has in fact died after a shooting at the university. A second victim is in intensive care as we speak. Now, Jacob Lee Bard has been charged in relation to these crimes, and he is the parent of a Kentucky State University student, a fellow student. So an interesting set of circumstances there. Also an isolated incident, according to that press conference right there. So certainly more to come, as there were a number of questions that that gentleman was not able to give comment on involved with that situation. Okay, now can we pull up channel 3 here, because we do believe that at some point this will be Jerome Powell. Yes, that is the information we were getting. At some point, this will be Jerome Powell from the Federal Reserve speaking about a decision that the Federal Reserve is expected to make today, according to CNN, a decision to cut interest rates by a 1/4 point. Now, the Federal Reserve is in a very interesting place here. There is conflict within the the body, conflict within the reserve, more so than is typical. There is also the problem of high inflation combined with a weakening labor market. And so anytime you have those two things, you have to make decisions. Typically you would make decisions to favor one or the other, but with both of them in a difficult place, now you have to make slightly more difficult decisions to figure out what to do to try to manage those two factors. And there were 32,000 jobs lost in November, according to ADP. ADP is a payroll giant that has become a source for information like this due to delays in the federal jobs report after the government shutdown. Now, it obviously has not started yet. Do we want to go back to the cow? Because the cow just swam through a creek. It continues. They have abandoned, those who are trying to corral this cow have abandoned the pickup trucks. They are now on foot. And we had this up on our feed while we were talking through the Federal Reserve. And the cow ran through a creek, was in water up to its neck, and swam right through the creek to the other side. This is an incredibly resilient cow here that is requiring an immense amount of time and manpower to try to get a hold of it. Just really, ultimately, again, health and safety of everyone involved is paramount here. But at some point, you have to marvel at the ability of this cow to remain elusive here. That kind of shocked me when I saw him running through the creek, swimming through the creek, and now he's deep in these woods. This cow is deep into this wooded area. Okay, so that is still going. I bet you guys didn't think we were going to come back to that after some time away. But this cow, again, resilient, elusive, probably one of the great tag players in the history of that game, because they just cannot get a hold of this cow. But again, above all else, you hope the cow is okay. You know, we maybe approach this from a slightly more lighthearted viewpoint because it's just so unique and so different to come across our live feed. But with all of that considered, you hope the cow is okay, especially deep into those woods. This is technically, I do believe, Nia Campbell, these are farm animals. So they are not, they're considered domesticated. If you're a farm animal, you're considered domesticated. You're not used to having to survive in the wild. You've been raised in a more confined environment. And so, but this cow is certainly out in the wild now. And this has been quite the journey. It started with 2 semi-trucks and cows being transported from one to the other. And now it's ended up, we don't even have eyes on the cow anymore as he goes deeper and deeper into the woods. There we see the officials up there. We've added a third person to our team here. It looks like they've got lassos of some sort. We were told on Microsoft Teams that there'd be cowboys involved. I suppose those are the cowboys. So for the first time in the history of Live Impact News, we have cowboys live on our feed here. Okay, now we do have a press conference that just kicked off. The National Transportation Safety Board is discussing helicopter safety. We've been following the saga of the escaped cow. I wonder where we go here. What do you think, Nia? Do you think we move to the press conference at least briefly, and then we'll check in with this situation again? What are your thoughts?
Let's check in with NTSB.
Okay, let's listen into NTSB as you see the 3 gentlemen walking down this path here, again, trying to corral a cow that has proved to be especially slippery. Still going. It's been a long time since we first checked in with this story. But for now, let's go out to the National Transportation Safety Board and listen to what they have to say about helicopter safety. Let's go live.
67 families who lost loved ones in a tragedy that was entirely preventable. This is shameful. It is shameful. We should be working together in partnership to prevent the next accident, not inviting history to repeat itself by recreating the same conditions that were in place on January 29th. Now, I'll take a few questions, but I want to be very clear. At no point Was the NTSB ever consulted about this language? We were unaware. We have spent a great deal reaching out to anyone. I will talk to anyone in the Hill. I don't care who they are. If they are for safety, they want to know about safety, I will talk to you. But not once did House Armed Services or Senate Armed Services reach out to us. Yet we briefed them on our urgent safety recommendations after their issuance. Not once. So today, I sent up a letter to the Hill. It's on our Twitter. It just went out. It's a 2-page letter explaining our significant concerns about Section 373. We obviously have, we cannot lobby as a federal agency, but I can certainly state our opposition, and that is what we are doing. And I hope it's taken seriously, because this is not right. This is not right. So I'm going to take questions with that. Sir, when you ask, if you could state your name and your affiliation, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
What's your understanding of how this language got into the bill? Is it from the Armed Services Committees? Do you have any idea of where exactly it came from?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the question is, where did the language come from? Did it come from House Armed Services? I have no idea. I assume it came from House Armed Services. I've been on the phone since about 5 o'clock last night, nonstop. Went till midnight, started at 5 a.m. this morning. It has been all day. I will call anyone, to see if somebody can do something, somebody can raise objections. I think it's probably, I don't know what the outlook is in the House for this section. Frankly, it should be struck from the House bill. Certainly it should be struck when it gets to the Senate. I don't know the outlook, but I have no idea who is behind it. David.
Dave Shermanson from Reuters. Can maybe you explain for lay people, why does this provision not enhance safety? What is
Sure.
the loophole that Senators Cruz and Cantwell are talking about?
Yeah, so the question is, how does this provision not enhance safety? What specifically, how does it not do that? And I'll tell you. I mean, we've gone through the language. First of all, it maintains the existing exemptions under current law, the National Defense Authorization Act of fiscal year 2019, for the military for ADSB out. And it maintains that memorandum of understanding between the DoD and FAA. But what it says, and I'll go through some of this, in subsection A, it says the Secretary of a military department may not authorize any manned rotary wing aircraft of the DoD to operate a training mission in covered airspace unless that aircraft is actively providing warning of the proximity of such aircraft to nearby commercial aircraft in a manner compatible to traffic alert and collision avoidance system. That existed on January 28th. It existed on January 29th. That helicopter had ADSB in through the iPad. It had ADSB out. Granted, it had a problem with the helicopter itself at the time, but the PSA airlines, they had ADSB out. They had TCAS. They got a TCAS alert nearly 20 seconds right before they hit about 400 feet. 20 seconds before the midair collision. It says traffic. That didn't avoid anything. That midair collision still occurred. When TCAS says traffic, you're talking seconds. You are looking out in the dark to figure out, where is that aircraft? What is in my way? Is it a nuisance alert? Because I'll tell you this much, TCAS, below 900 feet, there are inhibits, basically alerts, are inhibited below 900 feet. This mid-air collision occurred at about 278 feet mean sea level. So the traffic, which was a traffic alert, you get that, up until about 400 feet. But you don't get any resolution advisories after 900. So this does absolutely nothing. It puts in place subsection A, what existed on January 29th, right before that mid-air collision. Then you have a whole subsection on waiver authority for the secretary of any military department for operation of an aircraft if the secretary determines, and the secretary of that military department determines that there's a national security interest, undefined. And then there's a commercial aviation compatibility risk assessment that has been conducted seemingly by the military department. And we know, by the way, I have checked with our entire Office of Aviation Safety. Nobody actually knows what a commercial aviation compatibility risk assessment is. You would think someone writing language dealing with aviation might want to know what that is. If you want to talk about safety risk assessment, we know what that is. And we can tell you from our investigation, the Army wasn't doing it. They don't know the DCA airspace. You know who knows? The FAA, who has absolutely no role according to this legislation, says the secretary has to be consulted. Where's their role? Their expertise. And I respect them. Yes, you know, there are certainly a give and take in investigations, but I respect them. Their expertise is our airspace. Where are they consulted in here? Where's their risk assessment? It isn't here at all. Apparently, that military department has to do a risk assessment that they don't even know how to do now. Then, apparently, put mitigations in place for, I don't know who, maybe their own aircraft. They certainly don't understand the commercial airline industry. You know who does? The commercial airline industry, who's also not consulted. If it sounds like I'm mad, I am mad. This is shameful. You know, then it goes on to say, you know, this has to go to Congress. I've written those things before. Listen, I worked for Congress for 15 years. I know how to read legislation. I know how to write it. This is not how you write it. This is terrible. You know, so then it has this report on near misses by the Secretary of Defense. Here's what I'll say. Where was the FAA and the DOD in particular when we discovered there were 15,241 close proximity events in our investigation? They didn't know that. We did. So what do you think is going to come from a near miss report of investigation of accident data that only the FAA collects? They don't know what a near miss is. They don't even have a definition for one. So, you know, there's a lot of that really takes us through all the provisions in here. This should be stricken from this legislation. I've already stated that the Rotor Act would go a long way. I'm not going to get ahead of our DC investigation with any recommendations that we're going to come out with once we finalize that investigation soon. But we have been on record supporting ADSB in and ADSB out for decades. That will substantially improve safety and save lives, which is why we support the Rotor Act. This should come out. You want to have a debate or a discussion in the Rotor Act? We can have that discussion. You want to have a discussion around our final recommendations? Fine. This is shameful. Go ahead, and then I'll go to...
goes through and is passed as is, should passengers feel safe flying in or out of DCA? And I also wonder, ma'am, if you've talked to any of the families or what you say to them in the wake of this.
Yeah, I talked to the Lilies. I talked to Sherry Lilly this morning. We spoke. I've seen the families. Frankly, my chief of staff reached out to the other family group. I am reaching out to them later today. We are in constant communication. We meet on a regular basis. I've seen what they released, and I agree. In fact, although I would say it's not window dressing, I'd say this is a broken window. Broken window. So, I mean, it's terrible. And to answer your first question, if this becomes law, No, I would be concerned about safety in the DC airspace. Absolutely not. I could not assure anybody. I would not stand up there and say this guarantees safety. It does not. It is a step backward. In fact, I would say it's a safety whitewash. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Will Geisman at the Airport. Said you haven't spoken to folks on the Hill. Have you spoken to anyone at DOD?
I have not recently on this in particular spoken to anyone at DOD, and nobody at DOD or any of the military organizations spoke with me either. Yes.
I just have a question about how you read one thing about this waiver.
Mm-hmm.
Which is that it does say that those secretaries of the various branch military can make this call with the concurrence of the Secretary of Transportation. Do you read that as enough of a safeguard in there, or any sort of safeguard?
No, I don't. That's not a safeguard. Where's the rest of the role for DOT? Their responsibility is to ensure safety of travelers, of crews, especially in our airspace. And they are the experts when it comes to DCA, when it comes to our complex airspace, whether it's here or elsewhere in our nation. And they basically have a you can consult with the secretary checkoff role. I mean, that's terrible. There's no role. They're not part of any safety risk assessment. Frankly, any safety risk assessment should be it should be in the DOT's authority, not within DOD's. Yes.
Lori Aratani, The Washington Post. You mentioned that this reverses key safety reforms that were put in place in the days after the crash. Someone had raised to me the possibility that this could mean they could reactivate or reopen some of the helicopter routes that you closed. Do you think that's a possibility?
And the question is, and I'm sorry I didn't repeat the other couple of questions, but the question is about could this reopen the helicopter routes? You know, that's a discussion we also had about whether that could occur. You know, I don't think we have an answer to that because it's FAA's responsibility. It's their chart to review that route and to review their route structure. However, this pretty much says you can go wherever you want in the DC airspace, which is a pretty broad definition, without ADSB. With what existed on January 29th, which led to the collision. Go ahead, sorry.
Adam Tuss from Channel 4. I hate to ask you to speculate, but why do you think that this language is put in there?
The question is, why do I think it was put in there? It's hard. I don't know. Frankly, I don't know who put it in. I would love to have a conversation with that individual or those individuals. We have actively reached out on the Hill to all interested parties, so I'm not sure why. We were not consulted on this one. Had we been, we would have said this is a no for us. So I don't know I don't know the motivation. What I will say is it's wrong.
That's fair. And have you ever seen the NTSB work kind of be ignored the way that this seems to push this aside?
So the question is, have I ever seen the NTSB ignored in this way, pushed aside? Certainly. I have when we issue recommendations where entities tell us they're not going to implement them and that's their final word on the matter. Or I have when, we're pushing for a certain outcome through legislation and don't achieve it. But this is pretty blatant. And this is the deadliest air tragedy we've investigated, deadliest by fatalities since November of 2001, deadliest by fatality count. It's incredible that anyone would think that this is the direction that we should be going. This is anti-safety. Sir.
Hi, Zach Lange from Bloomberg Government. Would you have you communicated your concerns to the White House, and would you welcome their involvement in this?
So the question is, would I welcome the involvement of the White House, and have I communicated my concerns? No, but I intend to. I've been constantly on the phone since literally 5 p.m. last night. I'm sure I bugged a lot of people up until midnight. I would welcome their assistance, certainly. The administration has been extremely supportive of the NTSB since, they came in. And so I would certainly welcome any assistance that could be provided on this one. Yes.
Sarah Ploss from CBS. You mentioned that obviously as a government agency, you can't lobby Congress. It seems like you might be asking or hoping that this gets taken out. Is this lobbying Congress? And if not, what's the goal?
No, I mean, this is no different than how we weigh in on legislation on a federal, state, or local level, where we state our support or opposition. We don't say what the action, specific, please vote against this. We are not saying that. We are not saying how you should vote. What we are saying is these are significant concerns, and we don't believe it has should have any space in this bill.
Lori.
Yeah. Hi, Lori.
Has the military, have your investigators been getting cooperation from the military? I know there was some frustration during the hearings about FAA and their ability to get you documents. Has the military continued to cooperate with investigators? Do you feel like they're getting the information they need to do their work?
Yeah, the question is, are we getting cooperation from the military in order to do our investigative work? Yes, the answer is yes. We've actually had a really cooperative relationship with the Army. I've spoken several times to Secretary Driscoll. He's been phenomenal to work with and, has asked for information from us as well. And we've had a good relationship throughout the entire investigation. Our lead investigator is here today, Bryce Banning, and I see him back there shaking his head. Yes, because that partnership has continued. Dave.
I know you can't talk about your recommendations and it come out after your meeting next year, but can you say broadly whether the provisions in this bill would address, the NDAA would address the concerns you first outlined in August, or would it prevent a tragedy like this in the future?
The question is, would the provisions of this bill prevent a tragedy that occurred on January 29th in the future? No, it would not. This bill would not do that. This is anything but safety. I don't want to get ahead of our investigators as they are in their final drafting stages of the investigative report. I don't want to get ahead of where they are or get ahead of the other board members either. But this clearly would not improve safety in any way. Yes.
I know you've worked, you said you read bills, you've worked on the Hill. Can you explain if this were to go through, I don't like the hypotheticals, but if this were to go through, what is the process? How long would this take for this to get implemented? I mean, where would this go? Explain that process a little bit.
Well, the question is, what's the legislative process for this moving through? Obviously, it's up before the House as a conference report. Then it goes to the Senate. The Senate would have a chance to amend it if leadership is amenable to that. So that's something you'd have to talk to Senator Cruz and certainly the leadership in the Senate about. But then that would send the bill back to the House because it is a conference report. If it became law, I don't know the time frame for immediate implementation of it. I can't speak to that, but thank you for the question. Here and then back here.
Box 5, just waiting for you to answer what my colleague asked you about, it is safety to travel from DCA Baltimore right now. We have 2 weeks from Christmas, a lot of
Oh, yeah. So the question is on the safety of our airspace right now and the safety of DCA. I fly out of DCA exclusively unless for some reason, and it's rare, just because I don't want to drive that far to other airports. But I fly out of DCA. I put my child on a plane by herself. I am not concerned. A lot of people will be flying. Our U.S. aviation system, yes, things occur. They have occurred. Lives have been lost. But it's by far the safest mode of transportation. When we are talking 42,000 people are dying on our roads, that is a public health crisis. With that said, I could not say that these provisions ensure safety in the U.S. in the DCA airspace. Provisions that exist right now, rightfully, were the ones, the safety reforms that Secretary Duffy rightfully put in place, and within hours of the NTSB issuing urgent safety recommendations. Oh, I did. We'll do two because I did commit to here, and then we'll go here.
Really quickly, you mentioned that they're in the final stages of the final report for this. Obviously, we're now on what could be a fast-approaching deadline for this bill. Is there any hope that the report could come out before this, that it might impact any timeline you think for the final report on this?
Our investigative report will not be out today or by next week. No, which is another reason why we shouldn't be getting ahead of the NTSB right now. Yes.
Sorry, mine is in summary. I know you said that this provision rolls back the safety steps that were made in the wake of the DCA crash, and you detailed very much so how the different sections apply to January 29th. Overall, though, if this is implemented, does that put us back on par with the safety precautions, the safeguards that were in place on the date of the DCA crash, or does it revert to, does it strip away safeguards that were in place at that point? Like, are we in a better or worse position
With this?
The crash?
We are, okay, the question.
Since the crash, because I know things have happened since. It's on January 9th. If this were implemented, is it equivalent? Is it better? Is it worse in terms of from a safety perspective?
The question is this legislation in this section better or worse than what existed on January 29th at the time of the mid-air collision? It is not better. It's worse, or equal. I would say this is exactly what existed at 8 p.m. on January 29th, about 50 minutes before the mid-air collision. This doesn't improve anything. In fact, I would say with some of these waiver provisions and very little role for the Secretary of Transportation and the FAA, it goes even farther back.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so a emotional press conference. I wouldn't say emotional. I would say a forceful press conference from Jennifer Homendy, the chairwoman of the National Transportation Safety Board. That is a better word. A forceful press conference. A press conference that involved a strong declaration of the faults that are present in some of the new rules or some of the rules governing the airspace over Washington, D.C. She repeatedly mentioned, the genesis of the conversation is the crash that happened back in January of this year, almost a full year ago, when an American Airlines regional jet collided with a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter near Washington, D.C. over the Potomac. She referenced that, and then she said that what she had in those rules that were in her hand, that she felt like it was a step back, that she would not say that it guarantees safety, and she was very strong in stating this. She was, very forceful in stating this, and talked about how she's been on the phone since 5 p.m. last night, calling people, trying to have her voice heard, having this press conference, trying to have her voice heard. Really, I guess a good way to put it is sounding the alarms on this situation. Again, Jennifer Homendy, the chairwoman of the NTSB, sounding the alarms about helicopter safety, airspace safety, air travel safety in that press conference. Let's briefly go to the cow, Naya. I know that was a harsh change. We've been following this cow all day long. A cowboy that you can see next to that truck has lassoed the cow. The cow appears fine, and they are about to get the cow onto a transportation vehicle. So again, that cowboy now on foot has dismounted his horse. They've got the gate closed. The cow is safely inside the vehicle and theoretically will be transferred back to the rest of his friends who were put onto an alternate semi-truck. And hopefully that cow is perfectly healthy, fine, and lives a long life, a long, happy, healthy life wherever he's headed, because that is one slippery cow. A brief, fleeting moment of open space for that cow. They seized the opportunity. And for, an hour now maybe? He's been roaming those fields in Missouri, an hour that we've seen at least. They bring in the Cowboys lasso the cow, and it appears as though the cow has been safely put where he needs to go. This looks like a backyard. There's a bird feeder there and sort of a hangout space with a fire pit. This is the backyard of someone's house. This cow what did you say, Naya? Headed straight for the kitchen, trying to get some food. It's been a long day of evading capture. But now has been caught and hopefully is going to rejoin the rest of the members of that transport, and they will all head to hopefully a farm to go about their business and enjoy their days. And what a journey for us here on Live Impact News. Okay, we're sorry we shifted gears so quickly there. We didn't mean to downplay what's happening at the National Transportation Safety Board, but we do feel like we adequately communicated just how forceful that press conference was, the sounding of the alarms around the lack of safety involved in the guidelines that were being spoken about in that press conference. Now, another thing we've been talking about throughout the day today, Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve, the report has been that they will cut interest rates today. Jerome Powell is now holding his press conference. Let's go live to that press conference for now. It is 2:45 p.m. We have about 15 minutes left in stream. They're now doing the question and answer portion. Let's go live out to Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, holding his press conference after reports that the Fed would be cutting rates today, cutting interest rates by a quarter point. Let's go live to Chairman Powell.
Two goals are a bit in tension, right? So, interestingly, everyone around the table at the FOMC agrees that inflation is too high and that we want it to come down, and agrees that the labor market has softened and that there's further risk. Everyone agrees on that. Where the difference is how do you weight those risks, and what does your forecast look like, and where do you, ultimately where do you think the bigger risk is, and it's very unusual to have persistent tension between the two parts of the mandate, and when you do, this is what you see, and I think it's actually what you would expect to see, and we do see it. Meanwhile, the discussions we have are as good as any we've had in my 14 years at the Fed. They're very thoughtful, respectful, and you just have people who have strong views, and we come together and we reach a place where we can make a decision. We made a decision today. We had 9 out of 12 supported it, so fairly broad support. But it's not like the normal situation where everyone agrees on the direction and what to do. It's more spread out, and I think that's only inherent in the situation. In terms of what it would take, we all have an outlook in terms of what's going to come, but I think ultimately, having cut 75 and the effects of the 75 basis points will only begin to be coming in. As I've said before a couple times, we're well positioned to wait to see how the economy evolves. We'll just have to see. And we will get, as you know, quite a bit of data. I should mention on the data, as long as I'm talking about it, that we're going to need to be careful in assessing, particularly the household survey data. There are very technical reasons about the way data are collected in some of these measures, both in inflation and in labor, in the labor market, so that the data may be distorted and not just sort of more volatile, but distorted, and that's really because data was not collected in October and half of November. So we're going to get data, but we're going to have to look at it carefully and with a somewhat skeptical eye by the time of the January meeting. Notwithstanding that, we will have a lot of the December data by the time of the January meeting. So we expect to see a lot more, but I'm just saying that what we get for example, CPI or for the household survey. We're gonna look at that really carefully and understand that it may be distorted by very technical factors.
And just one more question on dissents. I mean, you talk about it in a very positive way, just given the complicated nature of the situation we're in economically. But is there any point in which those dissents become counterproductive, either to the Fed's communication and the messaging around the policy path forward?
I don't feel that we're at that point at all. I don't. I would say, again, these are good, thoughtful, respectful discussions, And you hear people say, and you hear many outside analysts say the same thing. I could make a case for either side. I mean, I could make that case. It's a close call. We have to make decisions, and we always hope that the data will give us a clear read. But in this situation, you have competing. If you look through the SEP, you'll see that a very large number of participants agree that risks are to the upside for unemployment and to the upside for inflation. So what do? You've got one tool. You can't do two things at once. So at what pace do you move? What size moves do you make, and that kind of thing? And what's the timing of them? It's a very challenging situation. I think we're in a good place to, as I mentioned, to wait and see how the economy evolves.
Nick Timmeros of the Wall Street Journal. Chair Powell, there's been some discussion recently of the 1990s. In the 1990s, the committee did two discrete sequences of 3 quarter-point cuts, one in 1995-96 and one in 1998. And after both of those, the next move in rates was up, not down. With policy now closer to neutral, is it a foregone conclusion that the next move in rates is down, or should we think of policy risks as genuinely two-sided from here?
So I don't think that a rate hike is anybody's base case at this point, and I'm not hearing that. What you see is some people feel we should stop here and that we're at the right place and just wait. Some people feel like we should cut once or more this year and next year. But when people are writing down their estimates of policy of where it should go, it is either holding here or cutting a little or cutting more than a little. So I don't see the base case as involving that. So of course, a data set of 2, now 3, is not a big data set. But you are right about those 2 3-cut times in the 90s.
If I could follow up, the unemployment rate has been rising very gradually for the better part of 2 years, and indeed the statement today no longer describes the unemployment rate as remaining low. What gives you confidence it won't continue rising in 2026, especially when housing and other rate-sensitive sectors still appear to be feeling restrictive policy from the, notwithstanding the 150 basis points in cuts prior to today?
So I think the idea is that with now having cut 75 basis points more now and having policy, I'd call it in a broad range of plausible estimates of neutral, that will be a place which will enable the labor market to stabilize or to only tick up 1 or 2 more tenths, but we won't see, any kind of a sharper downturn, which we haven't seen any evidence of at all. At the same time, policy is still in a place where it's not accommodative, and we feel like we have made progress this year in non-tariff related inflation, and as tariffs come through, as they flow through, that'll show through next year. But as I said, we're well placed to wait and see how that turns out. That is our expectation, but we're going to start to see the data, and it'll tell us whether we were right or not.
All right, so that Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell speaking today in front of the press. Now, the GOP members spoke today as well. GOP House members spoke in Washington, D.C. It's 2:52 p.m., so we don't have time to get to the entirety of that press conference. But we did see that one of our representatives from right here in Hampton Roads, District 2, Congresswoman Jen Kiggans, did take the podium as part of this press conference. So we do have time to listen to her comments specifically. So let's listen in to Congresswoman Kiggans right now from earlier today in Washington, D.C. as part of a broader GOP press conference.
Thank you. Well, good morning. I'm Congresswoman Jen Kiggans, and I proudly represent Virginia's 2nd Congressional District. I'm also a Navy veteran, former helicopter pilot, a Navy spouse, and now a proud Navy mom. So it's certainly a privilege to be here today to talk about this year's National Defense Authorization Act, which should see a vote on the floor today. This is over $900 billion of money that we can send to our warfighters and to our military families. there's a large chunk of that's dedicated to ships, submarines, aircraft, the actual warfighting resources and tools that we need to just exemplify peace through strength throughout the world. That part can't be overstated. We've done so much with this administration just to reprioritize peace through strength. That's how we keep peace in the world, is by being that deterrent, by being that strong fighting force, but also taking care of our military families and our men and women in uniform. We did so much good work last Congress with the Quality of Life Task Force, and we continued that work into this year's NDAA. We looked at pay raises. We gave a 3.8% pay raise to our servicemen and women. We looked at housing. We put $1.5 billion back into housing infrastructure improvements. We know that there's a lot of room for improvement there, and I'm thankful that the Secretary of War has prioritized a task force to specifically look at where we are housing our men and women. We looked at child care. We have money specifically dedicated to new child care facilities. We looked at DoD education. We're pressing on DODEA to look at things like no cell phones in schools that are on military installations. There's a lot of money in there for health care, that we want to make sure we're providing good health care for our men and women who serve and their families. We put other things in there for licensures to make it easy for providers to be able to serve our military community. And we even looked at things that were making it unifying the accession process, because we heard a lot of challenges with young people who want to serve, that they're being looked at differently for different types of medical history issues. So we changed those things. A lot of meaningful change. One of the things I'm most excited about is how we prioritized our military Sea Lift Command. In the Navy, you know we don't have as many ships as we probably should, and we're working on that shipbuilding exercise. But in the meantime, I have my military Sea Lift Command folks who are stepping up, who are civilian partners in providing that peace through strength on the seas. And what we left them out a little bit of the discussion with quality of life issues, so we included them back this time. We took out pay caps for military Sea Lift Command pay. We made sure that our military Sea Lift Command members could shop at the commissaries and exchanges. We're protecting our commissaries, making sure that they are available and there for our military families. So a lot of good things to take care of the people who serve, but then also that technology integration piece, the contract awarding, the procurement acquisition reform. We've done many, many good things to the tune of over $900 billion. So it's a privilege to have been a part of the team that put that together. It's a mission that we all share here in Congress on both sides of the aisle, of taking care of our military and making sure we remain the greatest in the world. Thank you so much.
Okay, Congresswoman Jen Kiggins, representing the 2nd Congressional District right here in Hampton Roads, talking about the National Defense Authorization Act. More to come on that story as the week progresses. For now, we've only got 4 minutes left in Live Impact News. It's been quite the day here on Live Impact News. And we're going to close it out with, again, going back to the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, as the Federal Reserve in an interesting spot right now. Inflation is high, but jobs reports are weak, and federal jobs reports have been delayed due to residual effects from the government shutdown, among other factors. So, again, an interesting spot for the Federal Reserve. Let's listen in to the chairman, Jerome Powell, once again live to finish off our time here on Live Impact News.
As it relates to the banking system or to the whole economy. And that alone calls for us to increase about $25 billion per month. So that's a small part. That's going on. It's also happening in the context of a temporary few-month front loading to get reserves high enough to get through the tax period in mid-April. So that's what's happening there.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. This is the last post-FOMC press conference before an important Supreme Court hearing next month. Can you talk about how you're hoping the Supreme Court will rule? And I'm just curious why the Fed's been so reticent on such a pivotal matter.
It's not something I want to address here, Andrew. We're not legal commentators. It's before the courts, and we think we don't think that we help matters by trying to engage as a public discussant of that. I'll give you a mulligan, though.
No, thanks. I don't know if that means I get 3 questions, but
no, just one more.
I guess I wanted to come back to the 1990s question, and like, do you see that as a useful model for thinking about what is happening in the economy right now?
I don't think it rises to that level. So I did think that in 2019, where we cut 3 times, but this is such a unique situation. It's not It's not the 1970s, let's put it that way, but we do have tension between our two goals. And so that's just unique in my time at the Fed, and I think going back a long ways, we haven't had that. In our framework, as you know, says that when that's the case, that we try to, take a balanced approach to the two things, and we look at how far they are and how long it would take to get them back to, each of them back to the goal. And that's a very subjective analysis, really. But it just tells you you've got to, and I think ultimately what it says is when they're broadly equally threatened or equally at risk, you should be kind of neutral. Because if you're either accommodative or tight, you're favoring one or the other goal. And so we've been sort of moving in the direction of neutral. Now we're in the range of neutral. We're in the high end of the range of neutral, I would say. And that's what we're doing now. It so happened that we've cut 3 times.
Okay, back here in the Live Impact studio for the last time today. And, well, a heck of a day, a lot going on, a number of different press conferences and issues touched on. We heard from elected officials, Jerome Powell. We heard a very forceful press conference from the NTSB in regards to helicopter safety. But we want to finish off the show with a shout out to the cow. Roaming free for a brief moment and now safely headed back home, we hope. Shout out to the cow. And please, we hope everyone will join us tomorrow for more Live Impact News.